Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 2503. Be prepared to be inspired.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Today I'm just a little north of Gig Harbor in Bothell, Washington. Man, we're having a beautiful summer here with a very special guest by the name of Jodi Ellis. Jodi, welcome to Cars Yeah. Do you have it in gear, and are you ready to release the clutch?
I'm ready to go.
All right, we're going to have some fun. Now, I've wanted to have Jodi on the show for a long time because I've known about her going all the way back to some car shows she used to be involved with down in Oregon. John Dranius, who said, you should have Jodi on your show. And it's been years, but I finally landed her. So I'm so excited, thanks to Mariah Bull and a recent guest that I had on the show, that she did design work. Jodi and I have a lot in common because I was a graphic designer way back, and that's what Jodi does. But her focus is car books, which are really fantastic. Jodi, what's one little thing before we get started and I give you a proper introduction that most people don't know about you?
Oh my goodness. Maybe in my early 20s, I used to love the thrill sports. I used to go skydiving and dirt bike riding, and I was in martial arts. I was one test away from my black belt in Taekwondo, and then I met that special boy.
Darn those boys. They just mess everything up, don't they?
They do.
Wow. Well, that's pretty exciting. You know, that takes a special person, especially I say to jump out of an airplane. I just... I did a lot of motocross stuff back. I've raced vintage cars. I was a surfer. Loved to do all these things, but jumping out of an airplane, what? Okay, what is it like the first time you do that? What is it going through your head? It sounds like maybe for you, you're just like, let's go, I'm ready.
I thought it was scarier to walk to the plane and get on that little plane. And it was when I lived down in California. It was scarier to do that than to actually jump out. And the first 6 jumps you're on a static line. Mm-hmm. So you go and you get in the plane and you have your instructor there. They're right there with you. And then you just like jump, go. Yeah. And your chute opens and stuff. And then after that, I think I did like 5 free fall jumps before I stopped, but you just go and there's no better feeling in the world. It's so incredible.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. The closest I've ever come was back in the day in San Diego. I was doing a lot of graphic design, and we used to hire a helicopter to take us out because we did a lot of real estate work. And we would shoot overheads, this is before drones, of course, of real estate projects, mostly commercial. And so we'd hire these Bell Jet Rangers. They'd take the door off the side. We'd put a harness on, strap us into the seat, and the photographer would be next to me, and I'd be directing him as to what to shoot, and the pilot. And these pilots would always mess with you because you're hanging out, your feet are over the edge, and of course they'd stay level most of the time, but then of course when you're done, they tip the whole thing almost. You felt like you were going sideways. Every time they did that, I'm like, stop doing that. Oh my God. Because you'd look out and you'd be looking straight down at the ground, and of course no parachute.
Yeah.
And that harness was like, what if something went wrong with this harness? Oh my God. Yeah. So I think, no, my hat's off to you. Good job. You go, girl. Let me give you an introduction here. Jodi Ellis is an innovative graphic designer specializing in automotive fine coffee table books. With a deep passion for design and automobiles, Jodi has built a career focused on crafting visually striking and distinctive publications in that genre. She carefully tailors each book to capture the essence of its subject and the author's vision, focusing on detail and delivering exceptional quality. Collaborating closely with authors to bring their ideas to fruition, fostering meaningful connections with clients and enthusiasts. She teams up with respectable publishers, including Dalton Fine Books. We've had many authors of the books from that company, and Bull Publishing, and independent authors too, who are exploring self-publishing. Jodi has had the opportunity to contribute to a diverse range of publications celebrating automotive history, design, and culture. And I'm very proud to say I have I may have all your books on my shelf. I have a lot of car books, and looking at the picture you sent me with the background there, I went, oh, I have that one. I have that one. Jay Galati's book on 917s. Yeah, you do a wonderful job. So very well done. We'll be back in just a moment, but first a word from our sponsors. So give them a little love, and we'll be right back. Are you ready to take charge of your financial future? Then let me introduce you to Capitalize Your Finances. It's an online course designed to empower you with the knowledge and tools for mastering your money. This course will help you lay out the ins and outs of budgeting, the importance of emergency funds, investing strategies, and how to plan for a secure retirement. All this presented by financial planner Chris Paniotu. Chris has developed this course to help you effectively navigate your world of finance with confidence. Stop stressing about money and start taking control. Enroll in Capitalize Your Finance online course today and pave your way to financial success. To learn more, go to capitalizepodcast.com/courses, or better yet, go to the Cars Yeah website, show notes page for today's show, and click on the link under Capitalize Your Finances. You'll be glad you did. Do it today. For several years now, you've heard me talk about Linkage Magazine. I've been a subscriber since the start. Their talented and creative team brings you a spectacular publication and website that shares the automotive passion from a worldwide perspective. Linkage is about driving, restoring, collecting, and first-hand experience at collector car auctions and more. They bring you real-world values plus rational, experienced opinions on the current markets. They cover the automotive world and the people who share our passions. And Linkage Magazine has grown, mailing you 6 issues annually. Join me on this journey with Linkage. They're geared for the automotive life. You can subscribe at linkagemag.com. So, Jodi, I want to go back in time a little bit because being a fellow graphic designer, I go way, way back, pre-computer, cut and paste days. But what brought you into the graphic design world? And at what point did you decide to transition and focus, really dive deep into this world of cars? I have a feeling you're a bit of a car girl.
I am a car girl, yeah. And I remember when my mom passed, I found a little note in her chest. She saved all the notes and stuff. And I said, someday I'm going to own a Porsche.
Now you're really going after my heart. Oh, I love Porsches. Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. But actually, I got my start in high school. I was on the annual staff, and
Me too.
did that. And then when I was 19, I worked for a newspaper in California called the Newhall Signal, and we did paste up there. It was all cut and paste, wax, strips.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
I've taken the edge off my finger many times with that X-Acto knife. And yeah, that was pre-computers, and that's how I got my start in the newspaper.
Yeah, very cool. Well, you must be a sister from another mother here because it sounds like we did a lot of the very same things. What was your experience when the first computers came along? Because for us, it was the Mac SE.
Yep.
And we were the first design firm in San Diego that had one. And I remember we only could afford one. And so each of us would take that thing home at night. It had a little bag. And we would practice on how to use it. And we thought we died and gone to heaven. You look back now and you go, what an archaic block of plastic and computer boards. But it did change the world, didn't it?
It did, yeah. It had like a 4-inch screen and held maybe, I don't know, not even a megabyte of
RAM. Yeah, it was minuscule.
I remember going to Kinko's and when it was called Kinko's and using their computer there before I was able to get one. Yeah, it was wild.
I'll tell you a very funny story. I'm not sure if I've told this before, but back in those days, the idea that the computer could make sounds and like noise or even video, you couldn't do it, of course. But one of the ladies that I worked with, she figured out that you could program in sounds to specific keystrokes. And she programmed, I worked with an office full of women. They teased me about liking the Three Stooges. Yeah, it's a guy thing, right? And so they programmed in specific keystrokes with Three Stooges things. And I was home that weekend working on the computer, and I hit a command, and it went, boop, 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 boop. And I went, what the heck was that? And then I hit another one saying, hey, Mo. And I didn't know what I'd done. Well, here's the weird part of this. The TV was on in the background, and it was the Three Stooges. while this was happening. And I was convinced that somehow, because I'd plugged this into the outlet, that the TV was translating sound into the computer. I mean, those of us, those younger people listening, going, Mark, you're crazy. Like, you actually thought that? But remember, these computers back then, they were like this magic little box that could do things. It was. Yeah. So when I came in on Monday, of course, they all were in on the deal, and I was swearing, this computer is making it, but I couldn't get it to duplicate things. They were just laughing. So yeah, back in the day. So this transition into, since you loved cars and you found that wonderful note from your mom, and I'm so sorry you lost your mom. The car genre, it's hard enough to be a graphic designer and just do graphic design, but then to narrow in on a niche like that, looking back now, that sounds like it was a good path to take for you.
It was. And how I got into the car realm was thanks to Janet Mandarano.
Oh, yeah.
And
okay.
Frank's
wife, yeah.
Yeah. So in 1996, I answered an ad for a graphic designer and went in, and Janet hired me. And that was for, of course, MIE Corporation, the Maserati Club, and Concorso Italiano. And I worked for them for many years. And that, I mean, my first time at Concorso, that was 1996. That was unbelievable to me, that to see all those cars in one place. And it was so exciting. I loved it. I fell in love. And that's kind of what got me into the car, industry with graphic design. From there, I used to collaborate with Pete Vack, Veloce Today.
Sure. Yeah.
Have you had Pete on your show?
Pete's been on the show. Frank's been on. Yeah, we run in the same circles.
Yeah. So Pete and I used to collaborate with, articles for VCM, the Maserati magazine, and different things in the Concorso event magazine. And then, we'd share and do this. And he actually was doing an article I helped put together for an author who happened to be doing a book with Glenn Morris at Dalton Watson. And so this author, Philippe de Fechereau, he introduced me to Glenn, and then the rest is history. So I've been lucky enough. I've been working with Glenn for 13 years and have loved, it's amazing, the authors I get to meet and the work we get to do. It's pretty great.
Well, this is one of the many reasons I've been wanting to have you on the show is to explain to people that quite often niching down is a good way to not only define a business and really narrow in on a business, but also if you could combine it with a passion you have, in your case, automobiles, is pretty spectacular. And companies like Dalton Watson and, of course, Bow Publishing are just two examples of very high-end book publishers. And, I always say the word coffee table books almost is a little bit demeaning to the design element, being a designer, because the books that just sit on a coffee table and people look at them once in a while. But actually, those are the prize. I'm looking over at my coffee table, and there sit several car books from past guests here. And if you go back into our family room where I have all my books, they sit on shelves and they're not looked at as much. But this is pretty spectacular. So if you were to share with somebody that was going into this field of graphic design and loved cars, it sounds like that's been a great thing for you. How would you help suggest to somebody young like that how to do that kind of thing? And here you're a good example. You got involved with the Concours event. In fact, I was there at the Concours in 96. And also then, you just kind of start to meet people, right?
You do. You meet people. I got really lucky. I got so lucky because I didn't really go to school for it. I just kind of worked my way up.
Wow.
And I did take some classes at Otis Parsons when I lived in California for a while. It was just a matter, I was in the right place at the right time. Now you have to have a degree, in every single thing and go to that. But, I guess I just was lucky enough to be in certain situations where I was then introduced to the next person. And, sometimes you have to do stuff for free. You just have to get in there and do some work. And I don't know how to explain how to get into it.
Well, you cited something there, is doing work for free. When I was in college studying graphic design, that's what I did. I decided instead of doing the projects that the professors wanted me to do, I said, could I go out and find real jobs and submit those as projects? And some professors said, no, you have to do mine. And others said, oh, yeah, because I remember having a discussion with a professor, and I said, aren't we here so that we can go out and get jobs and get paid for this. So why would you not let me do this? And that kind of made her head, I think, click and go, well, okay, if you think you can. She didn't know I already had a bunch of jobs lined up, but I think you're right. Or get involved with local events. If you love cars, go to car clubs and say, can I do anything for you? I'm a member of the Porsche Club, have been forever. And the local organization here, the magazine is called The Spiel. And they're always looking for people to help and wanting somebody to do that. And nowadays with desktop publishing, oh my gosh, there's so many things that people can do, and you can learn all this really even without going to school.
You really can. And there's sometimes where I'm stuck, or someone will say something, can you do this? And it's like, well, maybe I can. And you can look it up, and someone has tried this before.
Right.
Always, you can always find a special tool, a script, or a workaround, or a new piece of software that actually helps with stuff. I'm finding stuff all the time. Just recently we were wondering if we had duplicate images in a book. And I found this piece of software that goes through your file and it finds the duplications.
Well,
and it's like, wow,
yes.
It's incredible.
Yeah. It's a brave new world. It's amazing. And YouTube, of course, is your friend. If you want to learn how to use anything, I just learned how to fix my oven. The range stopped working in our house. And instead of having somebody come, I said, I can figure this out, and found a guy on YouTube, and lo and behold, figured it out and fixed it for just a fraction of what it would cost just to get somebody here to tell me what was wrong. So same way. That's how I learned how to do podcasting. I learned how to edit. I learned how to build my own website. I'd never done that, even though I had worked in graphic, but by then I was running a company, learned how to do coding. I mean, it's just amazing what you can learn how to do. So
it is. It's incredible. I'm always amazed. My daughter uses YouTube all the time, and she fixed the hatch of her car put in a whole new light fixture in her bathroom, and does all these things that
fix the sprinklers. Yeah, it's incredible. I wish I should have started a spreadsheet on how much money YouTube how-tos have saved me around the house. By themselves. I always like to talk about inspirations and what I call our driving inspirations, people that have inspired us along the way to help us with our success. Is there somebody like that in your life?
I was thinking about that question. Pretty much everybody you run into is an inspiration. I look at the authors, and they always have ideas. Sometimes they've worked on these books for 10 years, a decade or so, and they have all the words in mind, they have the pictures, and they don't know how it's going to look in the end, but you work with them and you figure it out, and it comes to life. And I think that to me is inspiring, to see their words come to life. And reviewers, you wouldn't think it, but one of my very first reviews on a book I got said the design was pedestrian. Yeah. And after the tears, then you learn from that. You go on, how can I make this not pedestrian in the future? How can I make it better? And so I think reviewers are a big help. I have one reviewer that will occasionally send me stuff that they find, just as inspiration type things. Look what this person did. Look what this person did. And it's very cool, because I think you can find inspiration in everything,
Exactly.
My daughter is a huge inspiration. She's not a graphic designer, but she's a concept designer. And I'll sometimes send her things, and she has a young mind. So she's, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And so it's all of the things combined you find inspiration in.
This is a good question for a fellow designer, and you'll understand this, especially talking about the pedestrian comment. When I was young in my career as designers, and this would work for photographers as well, any artist, any creative person, even musicians, we get so tied into a project that we sometimes can't see past it. And when you present it to a client, in my case, in doing commercial graphic design and so forth, you present things to clients, and sometimes they go, I don't like it. And you just go, God, I put my heart and soul into it. I remember the first time I got one of those, and it was a catalog design. So it was a big project. And I came back to my business partner, who was much older and wiser than me. And I said, they hated everything. And he could tell I was really upset. And he goes, okay, so what? Did you ask them why? So we can understand what direction to go down. How would you advise young people that are in the creative field to face rejection and how to work with it?
You really have to take your ego out of it because it's not about you. And everyone has a different eye. I could design something that 100 people will love and 50 people will hate, or the opposite. If you take your ego out of it and you're just designing, you're listening to the people, you look at your target audience, and then you just kind of go from there. And not everyone's going to love it. And I also think just because I have an idea doesn't mean it's the end all. I've had authors who will come to me and say, hey, what if we put a line in there? Or what if we changed these colors, did opposite? And you do that and it's miraculous. It just changes everything. And sometimes you're so close to the project that you can't see it evolve. And just little tweaks like that just makes a huge difference. And so if you take your ego out of it and you try different things and you have fun with it, then I think that is where your best designs come. When I start out a book, the first concept I go with will generally work. And then throughout the whole process, by the time I'm done, the book is kind of changed. It's morphed into what it becomes. Because if you start out with template pages, you can change stuff subtly as you go, and it changes it throughout. And sometimes it's just a matter of changing a color, putting a line in, tweaking a font. All those little things really make a difference. And I think the book grows as you progress. And I think that's part of the fun of it, is just seeing it kind of evolve. And
would you agree that another key factor here is being a good communicator? And with that comes being a good listener. I always go back to Stephen Covey's book, especially Rule 5. First, listen to understand, then
right.
speak to be understood. I had the most difficult client in the 11 years when I was solely doing graphic design. Oh my gosh, this client was a challenge. And one day we were in a multitude of meetings, and they never liked anything when you just learned that they're not going to like anything. That was kind of their game they played. But at this point, this person said to me, Mark, I'm thinking of a color, and it's your job to figure that out. And yeah, and I just went, I said, so you have no idea what you like. I'm like, well, I'm thinking of a color? Yeah, it kind of reminded me of the Devil Wears Prada. That was that client. Yeah. That is exactly that client. Yeah, it was a tough one. However, it leads me to ask you about what I call the challenge question. And in your career path, has there been a massive challenge that you faced that when you look back now, you go, I'm kind of glad I went through that because it was really hard, but it taught me a really valuable lesson?
Nothing like that. There's always things with books that if your photo's named the same, if you have two different pictures and they're named the same, when InDesign brings it in, it'll put the same picture in instead of the two different ones sometimes if you relink. So we've had books that had duplicate pictures. I've had books where my left and right pages got messed up or didn't have my drop cap stylized, and so it messed that up. So all of these things, all of these little mistakes go on a list, and you learn from those. You try not to make those kind of mistakes again. But I think my biggest challenge is a work-life balance, because I absolutely love what I do, and I could sit at my computer for 14 hours a day, and oftentimes I do, and just play and have fun and create these books. And I think there's more to life than just sitting in front of a computer, and that's my biggest challenge, is figuring out how to balance, the fun work stuff with the fun life stuff.
Well, that's a mixed blessing, because when people like you and I have careers that are in our fields of passion, it is easy because you go, well, it doesn't, I always say, if you find something you love, you don't have to work a day in your life. Now, it's still work. However, if you're sitting there designing a book about cars versus a book about toilets, it's going to be a lot more fun, right?
Right.
Or, yeah, exactly. So, one of the ways I had a guest on once that talked about what he called boxing, how he did that work-life balance, where he would box out his day and do blocks of things. And nowadays, of course, we have these calendars that remind you all the time, that basically remind you to get up and take a walk, get up, go extra, go eat I mean, all these different things. Are those some of the tools? And these are tools that back in the day, I didn't have any of that. We just had, remember the day timers?
Mm-hmm.
Day timers. I mean, I lived by that thing, right? I mean, blocking out meetings and so forth, but now it'll remind you, your phone will remind, I mean, it's just magical. So how have you found, or what are some of the solutions you've used? Because this work-life balance thing is big. And especially now, even if people are working at home, it's like their boss feels like they can contact them at 2 a.m. Oh, I have an idea. Hey, Joe, I'm just thinking about this. Like I'm asleep. My goodness.
And that's sometimes a problem. I am really lucky where the authors are very considerate of my time, and a lot of them are in Europe. And so,
time zones. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll make time to have our meetings or call or whatever. But I also have a big fluffy pooch, my little sidekick, who comes with her little nose on my elbow when I've been sitting too long. And so we'll go play ball or walk around the backyard or do a walk or whatever. And that's really helpful.
Yeah. Well, it helps open your mind too when you get away from it.
It does.
I used to have to do that. I used to also do, in a company I was running, I also wrote all the copy for the catalog and the products. And I found that I had to write it in a way that my business partner who originally wrote the copy was first person. I came from a world where we wrote problem solution type. And so I had to pretend I was him. And so I would actually go out and sit in one of his race cars out in the back in the warehouse, and with a little writing, I was doing by hand, and write like I was somebody else, get away from the setting. And that worked pretty well for me. But yeah, that's a big challenge I hear over and over again, is that work-life balance. And it's really important because it will catch up with you.
It's hard, especially since the kids are grown and gone, and it's just my husband and I, and you have to really be careful, I think.
Well, and they say these computers are the new cancer. We just sit here. So
yeah,
I'm guilty of that. So I've in the last 6 months completely changed how I conduct my day, which has been a good thing for me. So when you think about bucket lists a little bit, you have done so many wonderful books about so many different vehicles. Is there a project that you have, like the dream project out there, that you would love to do in the future? Either it be a certain mark or with a certain author, or maybe your own book you want to do.
I don't think I have a book in me like that. I love the repeat authors. They're really fun. We have Gautam Sen, who just thinks of these amazing books. We just finished one called Wedges, not called Wedges, but on the wedge cars, When Wedge Had the Edge. It comes out next month at Monterey. That was so fun. I love books like that. And then Jay Gelati with his Porsche book. Porsche Decades is out now, and that was a blast. The late Tim Considine, we had been working on Yanks when he passed away, and his widow Willie is allowing us and Bull Publishing to finish what we started. And so
you
that's
worked on that book for decades.
Yeah, he did. And he, we were through the 80s when he passed, starting to work on the 90s. And so we've assembled a group of authors to help write. And I have some good friends that helped me choose pictures and do captions. Roger Attaway, who's been fabulous. John Nickus has helped, and Sean Cridlin and Randy Leffingwell, of course, and all these fabulous men that have come forward to help bring Tim's book to life. I think that is my passion project, to finish Yanks for Tim.
Yeah,
it's really important.
Tim was great. I had him on my show years ago, and I was so lucky. I ran into him on the lawn at Pebble, and there was a car sitting there, a race car. And I said, "Tim, how are you?" And he goes, "Let me tell you about this car. I raced this car back when I was a kid, and I had to pretend I was someone else because Disney didn't want me racing a car." And you sit there and you have these conversations with people, and you go, you pinch yourself. How did I get here? And these names, Leffingwell and Cridland and, Gelati, all these people that you're talking about, I've been so fortunate to have them as guests here. And just what a combination of history and knowledge is just absolutely incredible. You're very fortunate for sure.
Oh, I'm so lucky. It makes me smile because I think to all these authors and their work, I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, I don't either.
Peter Larson, these amazing, it's incredible. John Nickus too. I just don't know how they do it, how they come up with this stuff.
Yep. Well, that's a lot of work.
It's
That's
wild.
that's what they
Yeah.
do. Yeah. John's
Yeah.
another one. Been on the show a few times. So let's talk about special vehicles. You mentioned you're a Porsche girl. I have been a Porsche fanatic going all the way back. Is there a special vehicle in your life that you could share?
So I do have a Porsche. I was able to get a Porsche.
Nice.
And I love that car. But because of my years with Maserati, I absolutely love the old Maseratis. I think if I had loads and loads of money, I would get a Ghibli Spider. I think those are those are the bomb. I love all older vehicles. The new ones are nice, they're great, but the old ones had such style. You look at I would never have a French coach built car, but you look at the lines, everything is just so beautiful. Or the Maserati Ghibli, and it's all edgy and cool, and Porsches are sleek and beautiful. And I just think cars are amazing. They're just works of art, really.
They are. Well, they are for sure.
Yeah.
And you'll see on my shelf back here, there's a Maserati birdcage sitting on there. Yeah. But Maseratis, they're just so cool. And the old cars are spectacular. So that leads me to crawling in your skull a little bit here, being your car psychologist. If you were manifest as a vehicle or womanifest, is there such a thing? If you were reincarnated as a vehicle, what would you be? But more importantly, why?
So this was a tough one. And I asked several people,
Oh, good.
what would I be? And so
What am I?
my husband was no help at all because I'm sure he didn't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
But my best friend was super helpful. And so I think I decided I go between a couple different things because you can't just be one car all the time. So I would go between a Ford F-150,
Okay.
the kind you see the commercials for during football games. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They can do
workhorse.
everything.
Yeah.
A workhorse. They have a big load. They're dependable. They're strong, And then one of my first cars I had was a Toyota MR2. And so that would be what else I would be. I would be a Toyota MR2. I would be fun. Toyotas are also dependable. Go forever, but then have that sporty fun side too. So I think I'm a crossover,
Well, that's okay. I've had Frankenstein guests on the show before. So, I think one of the first guests, artist Harold Cleworth, suggested something like this was a combination between a Cadillac, a Biarritz, and a British sports car, because he's an expat who'd moved here, and his first big famous claim to fame painting was a Cadillac. So, yeah, that kind of makes sense. I think we're all kind of a melding of things. If you do the ancestry review, we find out that we're all a bunch of mutts anyway. Except for my wife. Our whole family did it, and she was like the only purebred in the family, which is
wow.
very interesting. Yeah, all from the UK going back. So, but the rest of us were kind of a mishmash of things. Well, we talk about books here, and to talk about books with you is amazing. And what got us together was Mariah Bull and a recent guest I did in the show, Neil Smith's book On the Prowl,
Right.
that you did. But this is going to be probably a impossible to answer question. But is there one book that you worked on, we'll just say for today, that was one of your favorites for whatever reason? I know. Impossible question. It's like asking me who's my favorite guest.
Yeah, it's so hard because they're all different. Some are racing and some are on a single mark, and some, Twice Around the Clock, the Yanks at Le Mans book. That one was really special to me, and it could be because of Tim. I loved that book. There's so many great books. The Wedge book was super fun. Neil's book was amazing. Some books you do and you just zoom right into the design and it just happens. I also like to find out what they don't like, because then, you kind of know what direction you want to go or don't go. So with Neil, we had our likes, and then we tried a few things and it just worked straight out of the gate. And then as we went on, little things kept happening and it worked. The flow was there, and that was super fun. It's kind of a modern look. I loved that. So it's really fun. The Lamborghini book, that one was great. That one was super fun. I collaborated a little bit with my daughter on that one, because Lamborghini, and it's called Cutting Edge of Design, and I wanted to make a cutting edge design. And so that one I needed to have my 30-year-old. I needed a little input there. But yeah, they're all great. I love the old book. Ballo was another one that was fantastic to design because you get into that era. Nash Healy was another.
I think
they're
you,
all
like
great
all
in
your
their
kids,
own
you love
ways.
them
They're
all.
just fun.
I understand 100%. Well, amazing list of books that you've worked on. Let's go on the ultimate drive. I'm a bit of an enabler as well. I'm going to park any car in the world in your driveway. Don't worry about the cost. I'm paying for it. You can take it anywhere in the world, and you can take anybody with you, including somebody from the past who's no longer with us, which opens up a world of opportunities. So what's the ultimate drive look like for somebody like you?
So I would get my mom back.
Yeah.
We'd go in some Thelma and Louise type car,
just
an
don't end
old,
the way they ended, okay?
yeah, no, we're not going to end it the same way, but, like an old Thunderbird,
Okay.
convertible, and we'd drive up the coast, PCH up the coast from California to Washington, and we'd talk about things that we never had a chance to talk about,
Yeah, that would be pretty
and I
cool.
think that would be just a blast.
So being a designer, what color is that T-Bird?
Oh, it's going to be blue.
Blue. Okay.
It's going to be like a nice metallic, not your normal average royal blue or anything, and not periwinkle blue, but just some kind of beautiful, that subtle silver blue color.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
All right. That sounds like a wonderful trip for sure. You've taken us on a wonderful trip today, and I'm so glad I finally got you on this show. That's pretty cool. Again, a big shout out to Mariah Bull for getting Jodi here on the show. Before I let you go today, can you leave us with some perhaps parting words of inspiration or a mantra of some kind?
So I think Louise Hay, she had some wise words. And one of my favorite quotes, she said, "The thoughts we choose to think are the tools we use to paint the canvas of our lives." And I just think that's so appropriate because I know that, the universe is powerful. You put something out in the universe and more often than not, that happens. And so we need to think carefully, make it count, make our thoughts count.
Absolutely. Wonderful quote. How can people keep up with you or touch base with you? Do you have a website, Instagram, LinkedIn?
I'm too busy to make a website.
See, this is like the cobbler's kids have no shoes, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Or the dentist's children have teeth falling out of their skulls. So, yeah. So you're in one of those very enviable positions.
I'm really lucky, but I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, the old timey Facebook. I'm still on Facebook. Yes. And I'm always taking on new clients. I never want to end. So, so much, throw that work-life balance out the window.
Well, when you love what you do and when you're busy is the best time to be marketing yourself because as we know, things change and alter and so forth. So I'll put links to all of these on Jodi's show notes page. Just go to carsyeah.com, type in Jodi Ellis, and you'll find all these links so you can connect and follow along with what she's doing and check on the new books that are going to be coming out because you'll want all of these on your shelf. Jodi, I want to thank you for taking a pit stop with me out of your busy life, sharing your expertise and spending some time with me today. Until we talk again, I'll see you down the road.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This was fun.
It was fun.
If you're listening to this program, there's a pretty good chance you believe what I believe, that the collector vehicles we love are more than just a means of getting from one place to the other. They're a part of our culture, our identity, and as a people, they bring us together at vintage races, classic car auctions, and 1,000-mile rallies. That's why I support the RPM Foundation, which exists to ensure that the critical skills necessary to preserve and restore these important vehicles aren't lost to time. RPM stands for Restoration, Preservation, and Mentorship, and their goal is to inspire the next generation of vehicle restoration professionals through its outreach programs. And they include Shop Hop, Off to the Races, the RPM Future Class, and many others. These programs engage talented young people across the country and connect them with mentors and a variety of opportunities in the industry. For more information on how the RPM Foundation is driving the future of collector vehicles skilled trade, visit rpm.foundation today.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah!